NCERT. Chapter 1. Understanding Diversity. Look around you in the classroom. Do you see anyone who looks exactly like you do? In this chapter, you will learn that people are different from each other in many ways. Not only do they look different, but they might also belong to different regional, cultural, or religious backgrounds. These differences enrich our lives in many ways and also make them more fun. All these different people who come from all kinds of backgrounds and belong to all kinds of religions and cultures help to make India so interesting and so diverse. What does diversity add to our lives? How did India become like this? Are all kinds of difference a part of diversity? Can diversity also be a part of unity? Read this chapter to find some answers. The caste system is example of inequality. According to this, society was divided into different groups depending upon the work that people did, and they were supposed to remain in those groups. So if your parents were potters, you could only become a potter, nothing else. This system was considered irreversible. And because you were not supposed to change your profession, it was not considered necessary for you to know anything more than what you needed in your profession. This created a situation of inequality. You will read more about this and other inequalities in the following chapters. Diversity in India. India is a country of many diversities. We speak different languages, have various types of food, celebrate different festivals, practice different religions. But actually, if you think about it, we do many things that are similar except that we do them in different ways. How do we explain diversity? A little more than 200 years ago, or long before the train, aeroplane, bus, or car became a part of our lives, people traveled from one part of the world to another, in ships, on horses, on camels, or on foot. Often they went in search of new lands or new places to settle in, or for people to trade with. And because it took so long to travel, once they got to a place, people stayed there, often for a long time. Many others left their homes because there were famines and drought, and they could not get enough to eat. Some went in search of work, while others left because there was a war. Sometimes, as they began to make their homes in new places, people began to change a little, and at other times they managed to do things in the old ways. So their languages, food, music, religions became a mix of the old and the new, and out of this intermixing of cultures came something new and different. The history of many places shows us how many different cultural influences have helped to shape life and culture there. Thus, regions became very diverse because of their unique histories. Similarly, diversity also comes about when people adapt their lives to the geographical area in which they live. For example, living near the sea is quite different from living in a mountainous area. Not only do people have different clothing and eating habits, but even the kinds of work they do are different. In cities, it is often easy to forget how closely people's lives are tied to their physical surroundings. This is because in the city, people seldom grow their own vegetables and grain. Instead, they depend on the market to buy all the food and other goods that they need. Let us try to understand what we mean when we say that historical and geographical factors influence the diversity of a region. We can do this by reading about life in two different parts of the country, Kerala and Ladakh. Ladakh is a desert in the mountains in the eastern part of Jammu and Kashmir. Very little agriculture is possible here since this region does not receive any rain and is covered in snow for a large part of the year. There are very few trees that can grow in the region. For drinking water, people depend on the melting snow during the summer months. People here keep sheep and goats. The goats in this region are special because they produce pashmina wool. This wool is prized and pashmina shawls cost a lot of money. The people in Ladakh carefully collect the wool of the goats and sell this to traders from Kashmir. Pashmina shawls are chiefly woven in Kashmir. The people eat meat and milk products like cheese and butter. Each family owns some goats, cows, and zos, yak cows. Being a desert did not mean that Ladakh did not attract its share of traders. It was considered a good trade route as it had many passes through which caravans traveled to what is today called Tibet. These caravans carried textiles and spices, raw silk, and carpets. Buddhism reached Tibet via Ladakh. Ladakh is also called Little Tibet. Islam was introduced in this region more than 400 years ago, and there is a significant Muslim population here. Ladakh has a very rich oral tradition of songs and poems. Local versions of the Tibetan national epic, the Kesar Saga, are performed and sung by both Muslims and Buddhists. Kerala is a state in the southwest corner of India. It is surrounded by the sea on one side and hills on the other. A number of spices like pepper, cloves, and cardamoms are grown on the hills. It is spices that made this region an attractive place for traders. Jewish and Arab traders were the first to come here. The Apostle of Christ, Saint Thomas, is believed to have come here nearly 2000 years ago, and he is credited with bringing Christianity to India. Many Arab traders also came and settled down here. Ibn Battuta, who traveled here a little less than 700 years ago, wrote a travelogue in which he describes the lives of Muslims and says that they were a highly respected community. The Portuguese discovered the sea route to India from Europe when Vasco da Gama landed with his ship here. Because of all these various historical influences, people in Kerala practice different religions such as Judaism, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism, and Buddhism. The fishing nets used here look exactly like the Chinese fishing nets and are called China Wala. Even the utensil used for frying is called the China Chati. And it is believed that the word Chin could have come from China. The fertile land and climate are suited to growing rice, and a majority of people here eat rice, fish, and vegetables. While Kerala and Ladakh are quite different in terms of their geographical features, and the history of both regions has seen similar cultural influences. Both regions were influenced by Chinese and Arab traders. It was the geography of Kerala which allowed for the cultivation of spices and the special geographical location of Ladakh and its wool that drew traders to these regions. Thus, history and geography are often tied in the cultural life of a region. The influence of diverse cultures is not merely a thing of the past. Our present lives are all about moving from place to place for work, and with each move, our cultural traditions and way of life slowly become part of the new place we are in. Similarly, in our own neighborhoods, we live close to people from several communities. Our daily lives are about the ways in which we do things together and hear stories about each other's lives, customs, and traditions. Unity in diversity. India's diversity has always been recognized as a source of its strength. When the British ruled India, women and men from different cultural, religious, and regional backgrounds came together to oppose them. India's freedom movement had thousands of people of different backgrounds in it. They worked together to decide joint actions. They went to jail together and they found different ways to oppose the British. Interestingly, the British thought they could divide Indians because they were so different and then continue to rule them. But the people showed how they could be different and yet be united in their battle against the British. In his book, The Discovery of India, Jawaharlal Nehru says that Indian unity is not something imposed from the outside, but rather it was something deeper and within its fold. The widest tolerance of belief and custom was practiced, and every variety acknowledged and even encouraged. It was Nehru who coined the phrase, unity in diversity, to describe the country. Songs and symbols that emerged during the freedom struggle serve as a constant reminder of our country's rich tradition of respect for diversity. Do you know the story of the Indian flag? It was used as a symbol of protest against the British by people everywhere.